Shalom and good day all, this is Healing29 back again for another indie comic review. And in this indie comic review I am reviewing Little Monsters and The Wrong Earth, trapped on Teen Planet. One is the beginning of an ongoing series and the other one is a one-shot. So I'll start off with first things first, and that will be the comic that I'll be reviewing in first. So, moving into the area of my rating, does this cover in any way, shape or form connect to something that is happening inside of the story? Yes it does, to which I give the rating a 7 out of 10. I'll now show some of the internal art, but please take note that some of the art, a lot of it is in black and white, all save for certain parts, to which the artist is actually trying to relay something. And I'll be covering the beginning, middle and the end. So let's get started off with the beginning. So this is some of the art around the beginning, and as you can see here, we're actually meeting some of the cast of characters. And there's sort of like the beginning of where we get to see the colour, but it's only in relation to the characters in who they are. And this is around the middle of the story. And by this point we've actually met or seen seen a little bit more of who the cast of characters are. We got a bit of colour in regards to the moon there, which looks like a bit of a blood moon. But how does this in some way affect the characters? We'll soon find out. And of course, catching their food for the day. Anyone up for some rat? And last but not least, towards the end of the story, and we also see that there's something different about these characters. What's up with those teeth? For the internal art, I gave it a 7 out of 10. Now it's time to move in relation to the story. To those who follow the channel, there are things that I personally enjoy seeing in my stories. And one of the first things is the area of time. Did we get an indication as to where this takes place in this present time period? Even though it's given us a somewhat post-apocalyptic look as to when this is meant to be taking place, we didn't get any real indication as to when. With much of the black and white as well as the very little colour schemes that are used in this to point out certain little things, it does remind me a little bit of the Rags indie comic that came out. And it also reminds me of a movie called Pleasantville, just in the way how the art is being done. Moving into the area of locations, we got the theatre, which we saw in the story, but no direct locations, but we also got their hideouts as well in regards to the cast of characters. Moving into the last one, we had the cast of characters consisting of Ronnie, Yui, Lucas, Ronnie and Raymond, Billy, Bats and Vicky, and of course that surprise character in the background. Though there wasn't a lot happening in the story, this story will probably drag for a while. So I'm certainly going to be looking forward to the next upcoming issues, because I have added this to my list. I already understand that there are some people who don't like the beginning of this, and that's understandable, because sometimes the beginning of a story isn't its strong point. Sometimes the best part of the story might actually start in the second issue more so than the first. and that does happen to occur. But for myself, I did give this story a 7 out of 10 because I felt like the creator of the story, as well as the artist of the story, were wanting us to focus not just on the interactions, but also on the environment in regards to the characters and why certain things are set out in colour. Such as, for example, blood, the moon itself, plus a couple of little other things too. So for the story rating, I gave it a 7 out of 10. I'll now move on to The Wrong Earth. So now it's time to begin on Wrong Earth, to which it's now time to give the rating for the cover, and does this cover in any way, shape or form connect to something that happens inside of the story? Sure enough it does, and it actually got a higher rating than Little Monsters, to which I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. I'll now start to show some of the internal art. There is quite a bit to this story, so I'll try to get as much as the beginning, around the beginning, middle, and of course the end, so you can see for yourself. So this is where things start off around the beginning of the story, and this is some of the art. I really enjoy the art, and this is pretty much my first Wrong Earth comic that I have picked up, and also for this channel I definitely might need to check out some of the trades for this, because I have heard good reviews about this series. I'll now cover around the middle. Now this is just a little bit before the middle, and as you can see here, these mirrors somewhat play an important part into what happens with these characters. Now this takes place after the characters have actually fallen through the mirror, and of course we've got Dragonfly and Dragonfly Man, and plus his associate, or his sidekick, who's getting a little bit more attention than him. Very clever. And this is a little bit of art towards the end. I'm starting to think now, maybe I should have given the rating for this art something a little bit higher, but I'll stick with the rating I did give it. And last but not least, towards the end of the story. So for the internal art, I gave it a 7 out of 10, but you know what? Stay tuned for what will be the story rating. Now, were there any comic references in this? No, there weren't. No, there wasn't. Was there any time references in this? No, there wasn't. Moving into the area of the locations, we had brought up Earth Alpha and Earth Omega. We also had, of course, the Teen Planet itself, and also the Fame Tower. The cast of characters consisting of Dragonfly and Dragonfly Man, Deuce and Stinger. I quite enjoyed this story, to which I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. Well, until then, let's keep it colourful and have yourself an awesome day.